I chuckled to myself because I was thinking about this advice that I'd read somewhere. I don't know where I read this, but it was advice to women about going out, and you don't, Mike's shaking his head because he's read it too. And the advice was, if you are going to have a drink, you get it yourself. Don't let anybody else give it to you because you never know what they're going to put in it, blah, 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 blah. So I turned to my friend, who is my friend, and I said, I chuckle, and then I said to her, does it have date? And then I had a word finding problem, and I couldn't think of what I wanted to say, and she's just like looking at me like, what? First of all, she's my friend. Second of all, she's a woman. And third of all, I'm not completing my sentences, and what I want to say, did you put anything in it? But instead, I'm just like smiling mindlessly, and here it is again, she's guilty. So anyway, it was pretty embarrassing. I meant to make this joke, and it wasn't really funny. And anyway, the word finding problem. Does anybody ever have word finding problems? Oh my goodness, we have to start a club. I think we should make lists of the funny things, the things that we say that we didn't mean to say, or that we didn't say. This sentence kind of trails off into oblivion. Anyway, the word finding problem happened, and it wasn't a very funny joke on my part. So my friend just sort of glared at me for a moment and forgave me, and then we went on. So Miss Chops reigns again. Seriously though, how we speak is probably just as important as the words that we say. Wouldn't you say that? This is the problem with the internet, right? Because nobody can see your face. Nobody can say, can see you kind of, making a love face to them, or putting your arm around them, or making eye contact and connecting. Instead, what they get is, all capital letters, and it sounds like an assault. So words, how we speak our words is really important. Stop it. One of my dearest friends, Ray, died just about a year ago to the day. Just one of the most outstanding, interesting, talented people I've ever known. I just loved him so much. He was a professional wordsmith for a time, and the words he wrote were just like honey, straight from the bees. A poet, a singer, everybody in this room would really love him, except he could cut like a knife with just the right words, Sometimes his ability to choose the right words was a liability because it was sharp sometimes. He always told the truth. Always told the truth, and you could rely on him to show up and tell the truth. But sometimes it was a little jarring because, we're so used to candy coating things, aren't we? If it's not too much trouble, if you have just a few minutes, I'm sorry to bother you, why do we qualify what we have to say with those kinds of words sometimes? And yet there are times when we tell the truth from impulse, when we say something without thinking about how it might affect the listener. So there's some kind of balance here, that kind of taking into consideration where is our listener without slicing like a knife. In the Unity family, I think we are drawn together for so many reasons, right? I mean, you can probably make a list yourself. Why are you sitting here this morning? Because there are people here you love, because you're dedicated to the growth of this community, because you've been here for a really long time, because you have history here with people, and it's a place you can always come, and you've been gone for a month and they still love you and recognize you. It's a great thing. We see the intention beyond the awkward moments, the awkward speech, or the word-finding problems. And yet, is goodness the same as being nice? I think you can count on the people in your spiritual community to be the best we can be, right? That's what we're all trying to do, is to learn to be our best and to take it out into the world as skillfully and mindfully as possible. But that doesn't mean that we're always going to make nice. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't have it in you. Sometimes you don't have time. Sometimes you're just distracted by something, and you're kind and you're good, but you might not be so nice. Sometimes nice language is just like Chop showing up with a new outfit. Maybe you can remember doing it yourself or somebody else doing this. My parents were always famous for doing this. When we were little kids, my mother's response when we were talking, you know, with Chops were going, would be, and she'd be driving in the car, she'd be making dinner, what have you. And I can remember so well one time when my sister was telling my mom a story, and my mother was going, on and on. And my sister finally got it. Like, she's really not centered and focused in what I'm saying here. And of course, I'm sure it was really interesting. You know, my sister was probably about 8 years old. So my sister said something like, you know, Mom, today Godzilla appeared at our school assembly and scared a few people, and kind of went on, and my mom kept going, My mom thought she was being nice, or actually she was likely in survival mode, which is kind of like a numbness, you know, that parents can get into, but she was not present. So what do you say to your child when you're in numb mode yourself? I've been known to ask for 5 minutes of silence in the car. Can we just have 5 minutes of silence? And then we look at the clock for 5 minutes. It's like a mini meditation. So good, mindful speech is uplifting, has space in it, and we all, when we are rested, feel well fed. And when the sun is shining, we're right on track with that kind of mindful speech. One of the ethical dilemmas that arise with speech is knowing when to address an issue and when not, when to let it rest. I learn every day that when you love and live with someone, like your spouse or your child or your partner or your parent or your cubicle partner or your neighbor, words can be incredibly powerful. Because we know these people, and we see each other's soft spots, right? We know that none of us are perfect, and we know where we're vulnerable, and they know about us. Because we're important to them, our words can be hurtful. At the very least, we can be bothersome. Words about how a project was completed, words about how something was overlooked, etc., etc. So here's a personal example. The other night, club night, I had everything happen on one night, you know, the rest of the week was not all that interesting. I made dinner, as I do every night. I have my daughter and 2 students, and I made a really nice dinner, and the plan was that instead of sitting down to dinner with them as I normally do, as the matriarch of the home, I was going out. First, I was going to the gym to work out at a class I really love, and then I was going to go clubbing with my friends. So the dinner that I was preparing was just for them. Nice looking dinner, said goodbye, love you, good night, see you tomorrow. And when I got home around 10 o'clock, there were dishes on the table, dishes on the counter, dishes in the sink, dishes on the stove, dishes, food in the dishes, dishes. So the first thing I did was go like this. Do not speak. I not so gently threw my purse on the floor and went to work and cleaned up the kitchen. But what to do?